What's going on, guys? It is the Coaster Battleman here, bringing you an awesome video. It is a decade plan for Cedar Point, and there's tons of things that I think Cedar Point will do. And there are a few attractions that I'm going to take out of this. A polar coaster, because I literally saw on Wikipedia that the Skyplex in Orlando with the Skyplex Tower is going to be a very expensive thing that is going to cost $330 million. So I think a polar coaster will not come to Cedar Point unless they don't add anything at all for a few years and not add any roller coasters. So I think Cedar Point with a decade plan like this would be awesome. And they don't really need too many roller coasters. I don't think they do need a polar coaster, besides the fact that it's so tall and they can make it the tallest ride ever. But I think that this is a pretty accurate decade plan. I know for 2017 they're getting RMC Mean Streak, which is basically 100% confirmed, but Cedar Point didn't announce it yet. A Waterpark Expansion, Hotel Expansion, and Cedar Point Sports Center, which is a new recreational area that's outside of Cedar Point. But let's move on to 2018, where I think they're going to slow down a lot and add a Triotech dark ride. They could make it a coaster and keep up the coasters, or they can just make a Plants vs. Zombies style dark ride. Either way, it would be a great fit at Cedar Point. In 2019, I think this is the year that the Cedar Creek Mine Ride is going to close. Now, the Cedar Creek Mine Ride is a solid mine train. Not really, but for families it's good, but it is too jerky to enjoy. So I think the mine ride will have to eventually close due to the need of a new coaster on Cedar Point's 150th anniversary in 2020. But also, during the year the mine ride closes, family rides will also be added to Cedar Point. In 2020, I think a massive B&M flying coaster is going to come to Cedar Point. You could make a sweet launched B&M flying coaster, the world's first launched B&M flying coaster, or the first ever flying coaster over 200 feet. Now, I think a launched flying coaster would be a better fit for Cedar Point. Plus, with Cedar Point Lake and the area that they are going to use with this, I think this would be a great spot for the B&M Flyer by Cedar Creek Mine Ride. Cedar Creek Mine Ride isn't good, so I think it will be removed for this massive B&M Flyer. And what would be sweeter is if the launch was right over the lake, which would be awesome. You would be facing the lake, which would be awesome. So I think this area of Cedar Point would be a great spot for a B&M launched flying coaster, or a B&M flying coaster over 200 feet. In 2021, a Waterpark expansion will be needed. It would have been 4 years since the last one, so why not add another one for the next decade? So now, for the rest of the decade, I feel like for the rest of the 2020s, the Cedar Point Waterpark will be good until 2030. In 2022, I think a kids area expansion would be necessary. Cedar Point never really expands their kid areas, so I think a nice kids area expansion would be good for Cedar Point. In 2023, I feel like clearing space for 2024 and a new flat ride would be a nice option. They're going to focus on the thrills for the next 2 years, starting with a nice thrilling flat ride for thrill junkies. In 2024, I think a GCI Woody could go in this area by Frontier Trail. I know they could just relocate the pathway, is what they will have to do, which will make this quite a bit of an investment, maybe, with a few extra dollars to spend. But I think a nice cheap $10 million GCI or cheaper would be a great fit at Cedar Point. It would be all about the turns, have some nice airtime moments, and overall would be a solid ride, very smooth, and would be Cedar Point's best wooden coaster in my opinion. Plus, I think the only problem with this spot I chose is that there is a pathway that goes through Frontier Trail into Frontier Town that could block the space for the GCI. Plus, Millennium Force takes up some of that space too, so it is kind of a problem, but I think this could work. In 2025, I think Cedar Point will step down for a few years after this and go with a Windseeker front gate renovation. Windseeker is a decent flat ride, and I think that area near the sports stadium or Cedar Point Stadium thing, I don't really know the name of the stadium, and the area by Wicked Twister could be renovated a lot to make a nice new front gate. I think a nice massive front gate would be a great fit because Cedar Point, when they add a new coaster, there could tend to be very long lines when waiting for the front gate by Windseeker due to the lack of ticket scanners. So I think some more of those ticket scanners and a nice renovation would be a great fit for that area by Windseeker. In 2026, Corkscrew, I think, will be renovated while Dinosaurs Alive is removed for future projects. And Dinosaurs Alive will eventually need to be removed because it isn't that popular and not too many people go in it due to the amount of money you have to pay for it. So I think Corkscrew could be renovated in 2026. It would be its 50th anniversary. And overall, Corkscrew does need new restraints. It needs vest restraints. Don't get me wrong. But Corkscrew, in any way possible, needs to be renovated. For the next season in 2027, I think a nice observation tower would be a great fit for Cedar Point. It could be like a nice sky style ride where you ride in a cart and fly up to the sky. Not fly, but you travel up to the top of the sky while spinning and you can see the whole park. Or they can just make a nice massive building with stairs and elevators to take you to the top of the tower to take a view of everything in the area. And after this, I think 2028 will be a big year for Magnum XL 200, which is Cedar Point's hyper roller coaster, and it's considered to be not that good anymore, but I still really like this coaster, and consider it in the bottom half of the top 10 coasters at Cedar Point. And I think with the Magnum renovation, I think new track and trains from Chance Rides would really improve this ride, give it some insane airtime, especially ejector airtime. Plus, the tunnels would act as some insane near-miss elements that they could take them out or improve them. So I think a massive renovation to Magnum would be a great fit. A brand new looking station, is the old one will eventually need improvements. This would be an awesome renovation that would cost a bit, but still be awesome for Cedar Point. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos.